We are talking about our experience at the exotic farm animal auction. Pros and cons.
What we learned.
Welcome to the Simply Country podcast. You are here with Lauren and Ben Denny, and today we are going to be chatting with you guys about our experience at an exotic animal auction. So we traveled about 8 hours in order to get to this said exotic animal auction, and we had planned and prepped ahead of time, and so we went there knowing that we wanted like certain animals, and we had a game plan. By the time we left, we had left with no Scottish Highlands and alpacas and donkeys. So our plan kind of veered once we were there. So
yeah, and it wasn't that they didn't have many Highlands. It's just that it was not in the price, I think, points. We didn't know what price points were going to be like.
We learned a lot on that. So we decided to get to the auction a couple of hours ahead of when the actual bidding would start. That way we could kind of just walk through the place, make sure we kind of knew what we wanted. We wrote down some of the animal tag numbers. That perfect eye-opening experience. Like we've just never been to one before. So it was a good learning opportunity. I think we walked away and we kept saying, this was a learning opportunity. That was a learning opportunity. If you're at a certain auction, a lot of times there is a wide variety of animals. So if you are a petting zoo, or if you are looking to just start up with a wide variety of animals, that was pretty good way to do so, because it was like a one and done type of thing. Like you could pick and choose everything that you wanted and walk home and be done with, you could said, shopping. As opposed to the way that we've collected animals in the past has been, we drive 3 hours to get one animal and then talk to more breeders and drive another 3 hours to get another animal. And it's a very slow process. So this one, we accumulated quite a few animals in one shot. In movies where you do raise your hand, and when you raise your hand, that card number is your actual ticket to purchasing. And once you raise that, you can't back down. And when you walk into that, I immediately got super overwhelmed because it was a lot larger of a place than I thought I was going into. Like, meaning like there was hundreds of animals, and it was loud.
I still don't think we saw all the animals there. Really big important thing, but you got to think too, that's the only thing people have to go off of is what they see, and you don't have a lot of time for what you're seeing them. We learned that on the donkeys we ended up buying. Mm-hmm. And that's where we also learned you really need to know your breed really well. Yeah. We learned a whole lot about mini donkeys after we purchased these two that we got from there. So we call them our rescue donkeys. They needed a lot of love and care after we got them. A lot of vet bills and a lot of nursing them back to health and taking care of them. So if we, knew a little bit more about them, I think we probably would have fared a little bit better. But again, it's very difficult for how fast they go in and out of that ring when you're bidding on them. Mm-hmm. We were able to start figuring out how things worked a little bit.
Yeah. When at the very beginning of the auction, we were not comfortable. Like I said, it was super overwhelming. There was a ton of people sitting in the stands, watching, waiting, just seeing everything that was coming on. So the first thing was they went with the babies first. And so we knew baby doll sheep were going to be coming up. That's what we really enjoy raising here on our ranch. And so when the baby dolls came up, Ben and I looked at each other and we knew ahead of time we came for ewes, which are girls, and if we can get them all, great, let's do that. And that was one of those things where they have an auctioneer who is speaking, talks very quickly, and you have to learn how they're saying certain things. Like they would say a 100 and a 200 and a 300 and a 400, 4, 5, 6, 7, 700, 800, and it would be harder and harder to like follow along because things go so fast. And that goes back to that bidding war. Well, do you want to talk about fancy?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we have this now said sheep who I was in charge of the card, and Ben was talking to another neighbor, and he and I had already made a pact. Okay, if there's a girl, like, we need to bid on it completely. And I didn't understand what he was saying at all.
I didn't either. I couldn't understand. It took a long time
to learn how he was
done.
Talking.
His session was almost done before I could finally start understanding.
I know. But I just saw a girl, and I just was like trying to get Ben's attention, and I was like, I don't want to lose this sheep. And I learned that I can't get invested in the animal before it's yours. And so I was like, I have to have this one. And I didn't even know exactly what I was bidding on. It was a girl, it was a baby doll, I have to have it. And so I was raising my card, and Ben was talking, and I was like, Ben, I need your help. Do we keep going? And I was just sticking my hand up there. And apparently I was in a bidding war. And then he said, sold. And Ben's all, did you just buy that animal? And I said, yep. And everybody else around me just had this shock on their face. And I looked, and they were like, did you just buy that animal? And I was like, I think so. And everybody's like, what? Why did you just buy that animal? Lauren, that is a lot of money. So I thought when the bidding started, the bidding had started at $190, but it ended up being that the auctioneer was saying an extra zero at the end of the $190. And so that's what we ended up buying our sheep for, a baby girl sheep. And I was so overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, you can't go back. They were just like, okay, what's your number? And I had to just raise my card and be like, my number's 409, and they had to write it down. Oh gosh, that was so. We learned, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that.
It pays to wait until you can make heads or tails out of the auctioneer. Because
not one. Luckily, she is registered, so at least she has good bloodline, and she will be a great addition to our flock for the future. So her name is Fancy, and we call her Fancy because it's from the song from Reba McEntire where she sings, Fancy Don't Let Me Down, like where she wears the red dress, and that's the story behind Fancy and why she has the name, because we just don't let us down, Fancy. We had a learning opportunity with her.
Yeah, it was a great learning lesson, and I think if we are to ever go back to an auction, we will do a lot better the second time around. That's right. You can get good prices and good animals in an auction, but I think you need to, get it down and be able to know the system to it.
So there's a lot of different auctions out there that you can go to specific for your need. So we will try to probably go in the future to a Scottish Highland auction. So ones that are just for Scottish Highlands. There's other ones that are more for just your Longhorns, your Angus horses, lots of different ones, and wide variety of states. And a lot of people drive to these things. And a lot of it was just connections too, like you said, is that we were able to communicate with a lot of the people near us and just going out of our way to say, oh, what are you buying? And, oh, you raise this type of animal. Can we get your number? Are you on Facebook? And just making a lot of those connections gets your ranch name out there, as well as how can you continue to do business with the people that might be more local to you in the future. So if they're buying one type of breed, but hey, in 6 months they're going to have a new set of calves, and you can kind of purchase from them, then that's a good way of making those connections.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that covers our first trip to the auction.
Yep, I think so. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to our Simply Country podcast. And if you have any feedback that you'd like to add on to this, please feel free to email us, simplycountryranch@gmail.com. Find us on any part of the social media. We would be happy to communicate with you guys if you have specific questions that we didn't answer on this time, or if you want to put any feedback that you have as well. That would be super helpful as well. So we'll talk to you guys soon, and thank you so much for tuning in.